Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming for you my September TBR. So my August TBR didn't really turn out that great. You will see more about that later. But however, September I think I'm going to have a much better situation on my hands in terms of balancing work, school, all that kind of stuff. And so I am very excited to make a kind of reasonable TBR in relation to my other TBRs, I should say. September I'm going back to school. I'm very excited about it, but also I am actually finally leaving the job that I am no longer feeling myself in and going to be having a lot more free time. I won't be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work any longer, so I definitely will have more energy and will be able to finish all of these books. I'm participating in 3 readathons during the month of September, and I'm super excited about it. The first one is going to be the first part of this video, and I'm going to be filming my bookoplathon TBR. Becca over at Becca and the Books has a TBR game that is super fun, super enjoyable, and it is a Monopoly themed book TBR game called Becca's Bookoplathon, and this month she's hosting a readathon based on that board game where you can run through the board game, create your own TBR, and use that as your TBR for the month. I'm super excited about this. I've never participated in Bookoplathon before, so I'm really looking forward to this, and let's just get right into it. I've decided that I'm going to do 5 rolls for this game, so let's just get started with roll number 1. Hey everyone, so here's the board. I've just printed it off onto a piece of paper and made my chance and community chest cards using some prompts from other readathons I'm planning on doing this month, so very exciting about that. Most of the other prompts in those cards are for the magical readathon hosted by G, so I will be explaining more of that later, but let's just get started. I just have a set of dice, like digital dice, set up on my computer. So let's just go for it. My first roll is a 6. So let's just go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my first book needs to have LGBTQ+ rep. That should not be hard. So roll number 1 landed on a book with LGBTQ+ rep, and I'm so excited about that because I have a lot of queer books on my shelf, and queer books are some of my favorite books to read, so I definitely wouldn't have any issues with that. To fulfill that prompt, I'm going to be reading Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyamide. This is a queer, POC-centered, dark academia book set at a prestigious boarding school in which 2 characters, both who are prefects in their final year, very excited about it, start to receive these anonymous texts, and all of their secrets are threatened to be revealed, and it turns into more deadly game. This book is blurbed as Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and I am so excited about it. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. I've heard it's queer, I've heard it's dark, I've heard it's spooky, and I'm so excited about it, so I'm definitely going to be reading Ace of Spades for this prompt. Let's get on to roll number 2. Okay, next up, my next roll was a 5. So let's move 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's last letter, first letter. So for this prompt, it means that the book that I picked for my last roll, the last letter in that needs to be the first letter in the book that I picked for this roll. So that also should be okay. I don't like this prompt very much, but I should be able to figure it out. So for roll number 2, I landed on the last letter, first letter, space on the board, which basically means that the last letter of the last book that I pulled has to be the first letter of the next book that I pull. So since I picked Ace of Spades, that letter is S, and it worked out really well because one of my newest purchases and a book I've been mostly anticipating for this coming season is Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. Erin A. Craig is the author of the House of Salt and Sorrows, one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year, so I'm very excited for her newest release. This follows our main character Ellery, and her days are starting to become quite monotonous while she tends to her family's beehives, chases around her little siblings, and wishes that she could be as free to do what she wants as her twin Samuel. She lives in a town called Amity Falls, and this town is known for its rumors about their founding settlers chasing off these monsters that lived in the woods around them. However, when a few people go missing after going into the woods, it is revealed that these monsters are still alive, they still are very real. They are offering to fulfill the residents' deepest desires in exchange for just a small favor. Super excited about this. I've heard it's very atmospheric, and I would expect nothing less from Erin A. Craig. House of Salt and Sorrows was one of the most atmospheric and creepy books that I've ever read, so I'm expecting lots from this, and I am very, very excited about it at the start of this spooky season. Let's get on to roll number 3. My next roll was a 10, so let's move 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Current events. So this one means that I need to read a book featuring some type of current social issue or a nonfiction. This is perfect because my book club pick for this month is nonfiction. So roll number 3 landed me on the current events space, which basically means that you are instructed to read a book featuring a current social issue or to read a nonfiction. This worked out perfectly for me because my book club pick for the month of September is a nonfiction book, so this is a way for me to integrate that. And for the month of September, we are reading a collection of essays called Policing the Planet, Why the Policing Crisis Led to Black Lives Matter. And I'm very excited about this, and it looks like a very interesting set of essays about a very important social issue of police brutality, and again, talking about the origins of Black Lives Matter movement. I'm super excited about this, and I'm glad I can integrate it into the Bookopoly TBR. Let's move on to roll number 4. Next up, I rolled an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hyped. Oh, this should also be quite easy. Again, this one's pretty self-explanatory. I need to read a hyped book. Roll number 4 landed me on the hyped space, and that one is pretty self-explanatory, just to read a hyped up book. For that, I'm going to be reading one of my most anticipated books of this entire year, and that is The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series. Truly Devious series was a trilogy written by Maureen Johnson in the last couple of years, following our main character Stevie Bell. Stevie is a anxious high schooler who is obsessed with true crime podcasts, and she gets invited to study in her last 2 years of high school at the prestigious Ellingham Academy. Ellingham Academy is this weird boarding school in the woods, I believe in Vermont, completely cut off from the outside world, basically living in this mansion on these magical grounds, magical seeming grounds, I should say. It's not actually a magical book. But the biggest thing about the Ellingham Academy is it was created by Albert Ellingham, a very famous rich man in the 1930s, as a place for kids to go tuition-free to study whatever they wanted. He was obsessed with games, so there's many different corridors and passageways and twists and turns on this campus. But the reason the school is so famous was that there was a set of murders and kidnappings at this school. The wife and daughter of Albert Ellingham were kidnapped and presumed dead, and the murderer left behind only a single note signed Truly Devious. Stevie was brought to this academy, and she decided that for her study, she was going to solve the murders. This takes place after that original trilogy, and it takes place during the summertime when Stevie is getting ready to go off to college, and she and all of her group of friends that she made at Ellingham are invited to this campground to act as counselors. However, the head counselor, director of this camp, actually wants Stevie to solve the cold case of the Box in the Woods murders that happened back in the 80s at this campground. Very Halloween slasher fic. A bunch of counselors were murdered. The director wants Stevie to solve the murders during the summer for his own podcast. I'm very excited about this. I love this series so much. I love these characters, and I can't wait to dive into this in September. Finally, let's get to roll number 5. Also, that roll for number 8 was actually 2 4s. It was a double, so I'm going to be adding another round to this. I'm originally just going to be rolling 5 times. Now it's going to be 6, according to Becca's rules. But regardless, the 5th roll is going to be a 6. So let's just move 6 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a train station, which is actually using a buzzword. So the buzzword is any type of pronoun, or name, I guess. That one also should be easy. So roll number 5 took me to a train station, and this train station's buzzword was pronouns. For that, I'm going to be reading One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. This is a very well-received mystery thriller in the YA genre, and it's basically described as a thriller meets Breakfast Club. It follows 5 different characters who end up in detention. These 5 characters fit the bill of the Breakfast Club, where it is the brain, the princess, the outcast, the jock, and the criminal. But by the end of the detention period, Simon, the outcast, ends up dead. However, the next day he was planning on revealing a bunch of juicy gossip about the other 4 people at this detention. So it turns into a murder investigation to find out which one of them killed him. I've been anticipating reading this for a very long time, and again, thrillers are perfect for spooky season, so I'm very excited to be reading this for this prompt. So on roll number 4, I actually rolled a double, which according to Becca's rules for Bookopoly means I have to roll another time. So let's get on to roll number 6. And rolling my double, it actually ended up being an 11, so let's go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. LGBTQ plus rep. Okay, so I've got 2 books that are going to have queer rep, which is fantastic because I love me some queer books. This also should be quite easy. So roll number 6 brought me back to the LGBTQ plus rep square, which means I get to read another queer book for this readathon, and I'm very excited because one of my most anticipated books of this year is queer, and I want to read it so badly. That book is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This is a sapphic high fantasy inspired by Indian mythology, and it follows 2 characters, Princess Malini and a maidservant Priya. The back of the book describes it as, trapped by her despotic brother within the crumbling walls of an ancient temple, Princess Malini dreams of vengeance. Forced to disavow her birthright and her power because of her past, maidservant Priya dreams of freedom. In a world beset by wild magic and turbulent uprising, their destinies will become irrevocably tangled, and together they will set an empire ablaze. That's all I need to know. I'm super excited. High fantasy sapphic, that is absolutely what I need to know, and I'm very excited to read it. So that's my TBR for Bookoplathon. Very excited. Great list of 6 books that I've been highly anticipating for this year. It's going to be a good time. The next readathon I'm going to be participating in is the Magical Readathon hosted by G over at Book Roast. G has gone over the top, above and beyond, creating this incredible magical world where you are traversing this crazy world, going to different spaces on this map in order to reach Aurelian Academy, a fantasy inspired school, and along the way you have to read different prompts in order to get to the school. According to her instructions, you only really have to read 2 of the prompts in order to get to this academy and start your journey. However, I'm going to try and read all of them because all of them fit with books I just pulled for Bookoplathon, so I'm excited about this. The journey is called the Novice's Path, and the first stop is the entrance, and in order to fulfill this prompt, you have to read a book featuring a map. For that, I'm also going to be incorporating my buzzword readathon pick, which is reading a book with dark in the title. So I'm going to be reading There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. This has been on my TBR for years, and I really need to read it. This is also the only book on my entire physical TBR that has any form of dark in the title, so I'm very excited about this, and it does have a map right on the end papers, and it's a glorious map. From what I can tell, this is like a high fantasy based on or inspired by Greco-Roman settings, I believe. But this tells the story of 7 prophets who originally built this empire until one day they disappeared hundreds of years ago before the start of this book. Before they disappeared, however, they gave us one last prophecy that would foretell an age of darkness in the fall of the empire, and 5 kind of found family characters end up having to come together to figure out who is the bringer of darkness and who will hopefully save the world. That's all I really know about it. I don't know a ton about it, and I haven't heard a lot about it, but I'm excited to read it. The next stop on the Novice Path is the Ash-Torn Tree, and the prompt is to read a book that keeps tempting you, or book on the top of your TBR. For that, I'm going to be reading The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. Next up on the path is The Mist of Solitude, and the prompt is to read a standalone. For that, I'm going to be reading Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. Next up is The Ruin of Sky, and the prompt is to read a book featuring ghosts, haunted houses, or any other supernatural elements. For that, I'm going to incorporate my graphic novel of the month, and I'm going to read a newest collection into my graphic novels section, and that is The Dire Days of Willowweep Manor by Shannon K. Garrity and Christopher Baldwin. I'm very excited about this. This is a graphic novel following our main character, Haley, who, after trying to save a stranger from a river from drowning on a dark and stormy night, ends up basically going through a portal, I believe, and ends up in this gothic manor, surrounded by ghosts, 2 dueling brothers, a sinister housekeeper, and it definitely seems like she has become a new heroine in one of her typical gothic romances. But everything isn't as it seems, and Haley may end up having to save this world from a perilous evil. I'm super excited. This seems like ridiculous, and I'm very excited about it. I love gothic novels, and this is seemingly a parody of a gothic novel, and I am pumped. Next up on the Novice Path is Obsidian Falls, and the prompt is to read a mystery or thriller. So for that, I'm going to read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, a YA mystery thriller. Next up on the path is the Tower of Rumination, and the prompt is to read a 5-star prediction. For that, I'm going to be reading The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson, because anything by Maureen Johnson in this world is a 5-star prediction for me. And then finally, the last stop in the destination on the novice path is Aurelium Academy, and the prompt is to read a book with a school setting, and that is perfect because I will be reading Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyamide. This could not have worked out more perfectly. The final readathon that I'm going to be participating in is a new one on my radar, and that is a readathon hosted on Twitter, and it is called Demonathon. Every year, the creator of this readathon creates this magic story based on a different creepy concept. This year is the Cabinet of Curiosities, and through this you have to enter and kind of solve the mystery of this world, and you have a demon helper and other different demons that help you along the way to reach the end of this mystery. Through this you have to enter these different rooms in this magical Cabinet of Curiosities in this grand hotel. It's a huge story, really well done, really well created, and I'll leave the link to the website where you can go through and see all the instructions and stuff yourself. But again, I'm going to be using all these books for this because it worked out really well again. The first room that you need to enter to solve this mystery and participate in Demonathon is the Demon Room, and that prompt is to read a book with broken relationships or rivalries. For that, I'm going to be reading One of Us is Lying by Karen and McManus because there is definitely a rivalry between all of these characters. Next up is the Ancient Manuscripts Room, and the prompt for this is to read a book uncovering a mystery or using an ancient language. For that, I'm going to be using The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson because Stevie is uncovering the mystery, The Box in the Woods murders. Next up is the Jewel Cabinet, and for that you have to read a book with a gorgeous or shiny cover. For that, I'm going to be using Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. This is working out so well. Next up is the Medical Marvels Room, and you have to read a book that is either a comfort read or a 5-star prediction. For that, I'm going to be reading The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. And then finally, you have to enter the Potions or Curio Cabinet, and that one requires you to read a book featuring magic potions or future technology, and I don't really have a book that fits that, but in each of the rooms there is a helper demon that you can use their help and change your TBR basically. However, you can only use one per readathon, so I'm going to be using it for this one, and the helper demon is the Siren, and they are going to let me pick a book that doesn't fit the prompt. So for that, I'm going to be using There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. But that is everything. That is my TBR for the month of September. It is kind of short and sweet. I believe there's 8 books on the TBR, and I think that is definitely doable for me. Typically, over the last few months, I've been reading upwards of 10-15 books a month. However, this month school is starting and I'm starting a new routine, so I think 8 books is very reasonable, and definitely doable for me. I'm super excited, and I absolutely can't wait to start all these books and participate in these readathons. If you guys are participating in any of the readathons I mentioned, let me know down below, and leave me a comment letting me know your most anticipated book for September, or if you're reading any of the books that are on my TBR. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it really does support my channel, and if you are new here, please subscribe because I put out new bookish and writing videos every week. Hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.